first 3 seasons of The Dragon Prince expertly and thoughtfully trace the gradual evolution of Callum and Rayla's burgeoning relationship. Despite being from different backgrounds and not appearing to have a lot in common at first, they soon discover through their series of interactions along their wild and unexpected journeys that they are able to connect. They are both outsiders. They have both bought into a sense of identity and a sense of purpose that they are fundamentally failing to live up to, and they are anxious about that. They're looking for an alternative to their inability to fit into the roles they are trying to ascend toward. As Heidegger thoughtfully teaches, all being is mitsein, or being with. Being is not isolated and insular. It does not occur on this Cartesian plane of existence through thought, through mind. It occurs through interaction with other people. The relation between different subjects through intersubjectivity. The relation between subjective selves and the outside world, and especially the other people and the other perspectives and the other subjectivities of that world, are how we create our own identities, willingly and accidentally. Callum and Rayla find each other through their interactions. They become more confident in who they as individuals are and what they want for themselves. They become fundamentally distrustful of the dichotomous paradigms that oppose humans and elves, that purport to demonstrate that these conflicts will never be fully transcended, that they are intractable and interminable. Callum and Rayla believe differently, and they demonstrate in a little microcosm in their personal relationship the possibility for a brighter future. Then that relationship falls apart, and they're both left to bear the burden of its fragmentation. That the relationship falls apart is not cataclysmic because they lose that sense of closeness that they had toward each other. That's horrible, and it leaves them fundamentally as more alienated and more lonely people. But what makes it properly cataclysmic is the symbolic, overwhelming, almost mythical significance it had, both for themselves and for their views of the world as a whole. It means more than what it literally is. It is imbued with a psychic, metaphorical force. It is the summation of their hopes for the future, for the belief that they can transcend their insular, narrow backgrounds and environments and come to forge a stronger sense of self through a sense of exploration, through a sense of understanding the broader world, and in that understanding finding a relationship with someone else who is also experiencing that same source of sudden experiential nourishment, that sudden vast expansion of their perspective, the broadening of their horizons, and the creation in the relationship between the two of them is hope for the future, not just in the pure sense of their relationship, but in the sense that despite being lonely, broken people, they can form these strong connections and face the future with optimism and clarity. And that relationship has added significance because it is this bond between a human and an elf. So it has that significance for the world outside of just having that significance for them as individuals. Now, on a purely literal and material level, no, of course, Rayla and Callum forging this relationship does not necessarily mean that all of the problems between humans and elves are going to be solved. But from a narrative standpoint, this relationship is fundamentally the most central example of a relationship between a human and an elf. These two people who are surprisingly alike despite both being outsiders, both having a sense of deracinated, uprooted anxiety about themselves and about their futures. And so, although the relationship does not necessarily, materially in the narrative, mean as much as, say, the relationship between Janai and Amaya, another elf-human pairing, this is our central relationship. For the purpose of the dramatic structure of the work, this is our fundamental example of elf-human relationships. Callum is the character through which the narrative most operates. If the narrative can prove that he, as a anxious but nonetheless caring and sincere teenager looking toward a brighter future, can form a relationship with Rayla, this ostensibly sullen elven assassin, that is a signal of hope for not just their personal future, but for the future of this world as is presented in the show. Season 4 then demonstrates that relationship falling apart. Now, I wish the show had done a little more to center that falling apart. While it is explained in the graphic novel Through the Moon, the average viewer of the show has not read Through the Moon and thus was likely confused when this happened, when it was revealed that Rayla had left Callum. This degeneration of the relationship does not necessarily mean that it's doomed forever, and it certainly does not mean that the future that Rayla and Callum hope for is doomed forever. What it does mean is that their overly simplistic and overly idealistic view of what that future could look like is, in fact, gone forever. They cannot return to simple, childish idealism. Their relationship has fundamentally disintegrated, and they need time to trust each other again. For their bond to have served as this synecdoche for the emergence of a sense of unity and harmony between humans and elves would have been a little too easy. Because the rift between humans and elves is centuries and centuries and centuries old and cannot be repaired just by a few nice-sounding platitudes about the future. That the relationship does suffer these difficulties, and that despite these difficulties, the two of them nonetheless manage to fight for this relationship, fight to repair it and rebuild it, makes the relationship a more fitting metaphorical embodiment of the relationships between humans and elves. Of course, there are going to be challenges inherent in integrating these two different cultures that have grown to view each other as antagonists for so long, but that does not mean that these obstacles cannot be overcome. We see the overcoming of these obstacles a little bit in Season 4. I do hope Season 5 and onward will delve into these obstacles a little more. Because they are significant. Because they are the marker of this sort of jagged, messy instability that comes after all the fanfare and the triumphalist speeches die down and people are forced to navigate the everyday, ordinary reality of what their life is like in this new, different world. I want to see how strong that rebuilt relationship between Rayla and Callum is in Season 5. I want that bond to endure, and I certainly do not think it would be worthwhile to split them up again, especially considering how narratively destabilizing it was to have them be split up in Season 4, but I want to see that relationship be tested. Perhaps Erebos could have something to do with trying to create a rift between the two of them, but it cannot solely be Erebos' doing. They have been apart for so long, and the central issues, especially Rayla's lack of willingness to be fully open toward Callum, have not entirely been resolved. These issues need to be dealt with. They need to be faced and confronted, and they need to be presented as a force, existential in character and cataclysmic in intensity that could rip apart the relationship. And I want to see that relationship rise above these mires of anxiety and instability and distrust. I want them to, like a flame, rise upward above the dark clouds toward the open sky of true understanding and true connection. It is not an easy path to get there, but if they do make something like this happen in Season 5 and do it convincingly, the result would be a relationship that is fundamentally truer and more honest than the childlike reverie and rapture that they enjoyed at the end of Season 3. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. I really appreciated how the Dragon Prince dedicated itself to depicting Callum and Rayla's relationship with subtlety and nuance as they attempted to rebuild that relationship in Season 4. They did not fix every jagged, harsh edge of their relationship. They still have a lot of issues to try to resolve, but they care about each other and they're committed to trying to work through those issues and become better people. That's all perhaps one could ask. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this before anyone else. Tune in soon for the next video. It will be coming relatively quickly. Thanks again. Adios, comrades.